We can start going live. Madam Mayor, if you'd like to welcome us and give some opening thoughts, we'll get rolling.
All right. Thank you, John. Really appreciate it. First of all, I know typically this is not our standard presser. Usually we would host this in person, but because of the pandemic, we are being respectful of social distancing, and also some of us are in quarantine. So I wanted to say thank you to everyone for making this happen, because I know it's a little bit more challenging with technology. I want to thank our media partners, all of you guys. I know you've been up all night long, but without the media, we could not message to our community. So you need to know how grateful we are for what you do to help us get through some of these really challenging times. At first, I really want to stress our hearts go out to all of those who have suffered losses from the Pinehaven Fire. I'm truly, truly sorry. Every loss is absolutely tragic, but these fires are a huge reminder how things can change so quickly on a moment's notice. So please know our hearts go out to each and every single one of you. Many of you know, this is a stressful situation that you're under, and I know because I was evacuated with my family. So I just want you to know my hearts go out to all of you, because when you're uprooted so fast and things are changing, it's definitely a stressful situation on many people. That's why I really jumped into quick, swift action and signed an emergency declaration for our city to get us all the resources we needed. I want to say thank you so much to Governor Sisolak, because he also jumped in and helped us with an emergency declaration through the state. I also received phone calls from Congressman Amade last night and this morning, helping us on the FEMA side, which was absolutely critical. So I want to say thank you to you guys. You did a tremendous service to us. I also want to say thank you to my fellow council members. All of you were messaging last night, calling and checking on residents. It really, really meant a lot. I also really want to give a huge shout out to our Reno Fire Department and our Reno Police Department. You guys and girls are all absolutely amazing. I've had neighbors knocking on my door all day long just singing your praises. So I want you to know how grateful we are. But we also know that it takes a lot of other regional partners to make this happen, because it is truly a team effort. And some of those people that assisted, and I'm sorry if I missed some of you, because we did have a lot of hands on deck and we are grateful, but we had services from the BLM, Forest Service, Truckee Meadows Fire. We had even strike teams from Lake Tahoe area. So again, I want to thank you so much for your help in assisting us throughout the city last night. And at this time, I'm going to just send it over to Chief Dave Cochran. You did a tremendous job. I watched Commander Robinson last night on TV as well, and this morning. So I know you guys have not had any sleep, but I want you to know how grateful we are to, and also Chief Soto for being here as well. And he was up all night checking in. So I just want to say thank you to all three of you guys for doing a tremendous job. So Chief Cochran, give us an update where we're at. Thank you.
I will do that. Thank you very much, Mayor Sheeby, and I would just echo 100% of what you said. We're so grateful to everyone in the region and everyone she mentioned for the support, because it really does take a team. No jurisdiction, no city, no county can be prepared to handle on their own an event like this. So that group effort is really what pulls it all together and makes it happen. So we have a PowerPoint that I will go through. I think Chad is going to be at the controls for this. So he's going to share the screen for you right here.
It'll be me, Chief.
All right. So the Pinehaven Fire started yesterday. Actually, let's go to the next slide. We'll start there. Did you give control to me, Chad?
I'm controlling it. It's a screen share.
Oh, John, gotcha. Okay, great. So this call came in yesterday, little after, just a couple minutes after 1 p.m. reported near the intersection of Pinehaven Road, Sierra Pine Drive. We dubbed it the Pinehaven Fire, although as we'll probably talk about a little bit later, this is a mirror image of the Collin Fire that was in that same area 9 years ago to the day. And I was on that fire as a fire captain for the Reno Fire Department. So I direct firsthand experience with both of these fires, and they are remarkably similar. At the height of this fire, we had 28 apparatus on scene. Those are not all Reno Fire, by the way. Mayor Sheeby mentioned the numerous agencies that responded from basically everywhere in Northern Nevada, Lake Tahoe, California. We had a tremendous amount of help, nearly 200 personnel on scene fighting this fire. And I'd just like to reiterate that shout out to our mutual aid partners, because and some of you heard me say this yesterday, or you've heard me say it in other situations. It's a fire service, and the fire service is like a big network of resources. And when we need help, we get help, and when other people need help, we provide help. And we did that. We did that all summer, and this is the good karma paying back, because we helped other people, and then when we needed help, they were there for us as well. Here is a map of the affected area. We are walking it today to get a precise estimate or precise count on the acres, but the estimate we're putting it at now is about 1,200 acres. I want to emphasize that's the perimeter of the fire. That doesn't mean all 1,200 acres within that perimeter burned, but that is the perimeter of the fire, kind of the line we draw around the fire, if you will. We evacuated, and shout out to Chief Soto and his team, about 1,300 homes. NV Energy de-energized 7,100 homes. They worked throughout the night to bring power back. It's my understanding that all homes now have power restored. They worked very hard all night in difficult conditions. Part of what they were doing was not just re-energizing the homes, but also there was at least one power pole and maybe 2 or 3 that needed to be replaced, but they were on spot or on scene, spot on to replace those. So that has been taken care of. The big factor, the number one factor, and I say this again and again, the wind is the thing that we cannot control. That really, when you have a bad fire, that is a common denominator across the board, because there's nothing you can do to mitigate that. If you have heavy fuel loads or steep slopes, there's things you can do to mitigate that threat, but Mother Nature controls the wind. And we knew there was going to be a high wind event yesterday. In fact, one of the changes we made to our response was we went from a brush 1 to a brush 2. That means our standard response is a brush 2. When it's fire season, we send more resources because we expect the fire to have the potential to get bigger quicker. We ramp down in the winter, but when we see a situation like yesterday where we know there's going to be high winds, we ramped it up to a brush 2, so we're sending more resources, and that proved true, accurate prescient, if you will, yesterday. Of course, the weather, along with the wind, there's the rain, which can help and hurt. It certainly helps dampen down the fire, but we'll talk about some of the restoration effects that we're going to be looking at later on, and the rain complicates that as well. And the one thing I would add to that is the darkness. Adds an additional challenge in a fire like this, where not only, because we have a lot of moving parts, a lot of people, I mentioned the 200 personnel, 28 apparatus, they're moving around. The limited vision can disguise road hazards, things that we just don't know about. So that's a challenge that presents an additional challenge for us as well. We have an investigation team, if you will, out on scene right now. I just got an update from them a little less than an hour ago. It's not only us, the state fire marshal, NV Energy is on scene, assisting with access. BLM is part of that team, and there's also a Truckee Meadows investigator on scene. So it's a group effort, and they're out there. I'll jump ahead to a question I know I'm going to get. We do not have a cause yet, and we don't expect to have one for 2 or 3 days. So I just want to let you know. I'm not going to speculate because there's a lot of rumors out there. I'll just digress real quickly. The last Pinehaven Fire, which is not the last Collin Fire, there was a fire named the Pinehaven Fire about 8 or 10 years ago that was caused by some criminal activity, somebody fleeing in a stolen vehicle that caught that area on fire. And there's a rumor going around that that's what's caused this fire. And I think what you're seeing is just a recirculation of some social media from way back when. So that was not the cause. The official report right now is under investigation. We don't have a cause. Current status of the fire, 5% contained. I expect to report a higher number than that later today after we walk that perimeter, like I mentioned, along with an accurate acreage number as well. The rain has helped certainly dampen down some of the spot fires, and we'll pin down the numbers, the actual stats in terms of containment and perimeter later on today or this evening. 5 structures lost, and those are homes. We have an estimated 15 structures damaged. Reno Fire, along with the building department, are out there assessing all these structures for damage, and we'll be assessing each one, evaluating each one, and determining the extent of the damage for those structures, and we'll get a final number on the total structures damaged then. If people need help or want to help, right now we're directing them to the American Red Cross. I had a question earlier today about, is there a GoFundMe or something like that where people can contribute? I am not personally aware of any legitimate, and I emphasize that word, legitimate fundraising effort right now. So I want the public to know, if you are going to contribute, the American Red Cross is safe. Anything else, just make sure you vet it so that you know that you are contributing to a legitimate cause that's going to help the people who really need it. Homeowners, there, of course, is going to be our homeowners that are affected. I mentioned the 5 homes lost, and that is tragic, as Mayor Sheeby mentioned. If the public returning to their home, which the street should be open now, if you believe that you have significant damage and you're not sure what to do, you can contact the Reno Building Department for an inspection. If they've already inspected it, there should be a tag there. Or if you contact them, they can let you know, yes, we've inspected it and it's safe for you to occupy. Any homeowner who has damage to their home should definitely contact their insurance provider. They can provide the same type of resources, and we'll give them direction on how best to handle that damage and where to go for that. Mentioned utility providers. A lot of homeowners may not be comfortable with the question, if they have some damage to their home, is my electricity off? Is it on? Is it safe? Is my gas on or off? So NV Energy would be the one to contact in that event if you have any concerns about your utilities. If there are hotspots, definitely call 911. We have crews working up there throughout today, probably until tomorrow. They're patrolling for hotspots. They're working on known hotspots, but if a homeowner identifies one, by all means call us. We have crews out there and we will respond. And as always, exercise caution. Next steps, of course, our goal, the Reno Fire Department's goal, 100% containment of the fire. We're estimating that we will have that by Friday at the latest. Of course, NV Energy is going to restore utilities. And like I said, it's my understanding that except for the homes that have been destroyed, all utilities have been restored. And then there's going to be a challenge down the road with environmental mitigation. And that's not necessarily a Reno Fire Department function or City of Reno function, but across the board, it's going to be a spectrum of people involved in that, from likely the state, because there's some state property up there. Likely Reno has some property up there, and then some private property, because one of the challenges, I mentioned the rain, is going to be erosion, mudslides, those type of things. And those could present other problems later on down the road. So we're going to need to mitigate those environmental factors and continue with that recovery effort. So again, can't thank our regional partners enough. Chief Soto was on this call. RPD was just incredible last night working with us, and Jason and I have had a tremendous working relationship, partnership for our careers. And you saw the other agencies up there that have been involved, from the sheriff to CAL FIRE to Truckee Meadows, Sparks, everybody. And of course, the Reno City Council has been tremendous. They were with us all last night. I know City Manager Thornley was in close communication with them. They have bent over backwards to offer whatever assistance they can, and I appreciate the support they've offered, and I know we'll continue to offer going forward. So, and of course, the media partners have been tremendous. One of the things I mentioned last night is when residents need to know, accurate current information, we use the media. We provide that to the media, and the media in turn can provide that to the residents and get it out there in a timely fashion. And when they get it from us, from a known source like us, RPD, it's accurate, and they can rely on it, so they can act on it. So we appreciate your support and assistance as well. So, and then of course the community, that we have so many people that reach out and support us, whether it's through donations, food, just the residents. Again, the Mayor Sheeby mentioned knocking on the door, saying thank you and how grateful they are we experience that out in the community as well, and we couldn't be more grateful for their support throughout events like this. And here's where you can get more information. The kind of the go-to site would be the reno.gov/Pinehaven Fire site. We've been updating that. Rebecca and her team have been updating that. And every time we get new information, that's where it goes. Quickest, most effective way to get current, accurate information. And then the Twitter accounts for City of Reno, Reno Fire Department, and RPD are always good sources. So with that, I will take any questions or...
if we could, Chief Soto, if you have anything that you'd like to add.
Yeah, great. Let's do that.
Thank you, John. I'll make mine pretty quick. I just want to echo Mayor Sheevy's thoughts for all of those that were affected by this fire. Yesterday, we held over day shift and swing shift officers. So we had a large contingent of our force out there evacuating the citizens out of the area, and then also having additional presence. As you probably already know, I want to thank all of our residents for their quick actions and their quick thinking. They were very, very cooperative, and it really assisted us in allowing us to focus on making sure that those entry points for Reno Fire and all the other agencies that assisted, making that a smooth transition. I also wanted to thank both Washoe County Sheriff's Office and Sparks Police Department. They assisted us with calls for service last night so we could focus our efforts on the affected area. And overall, you know, I've been on a lot of scenes over the course of my career, and just the cooperation and the efforts that were put forth, I think really saved a lot of homes, saved a lot of lives. I appreciate all of those efforts. I appreciate certainly the support that we got from our council and our city manager. But I really just want to let everybody in that area know that we're thinking about you, and anything we can do as a city, we're going to try and make this as seamless as possible. So with that, I will turn it back over to you, John.
All right, fantastic. And again, we've got a little less than a half hour to get through some of these questions. We know there's a lot that folks want to know, so we'll just go quickly. We'll start with Colo, either Stanton or someone else from that staff.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, it's Ed Pierce. Chief, we hear a couple of firefighters were injured. How did that happen? And were there any civilian injuries?
Thanks for that question, Ed. There were two minor firefighter injuries. I mentioned the darkness. One of them was directly attributable to the darkness, trying to navigate some difficult terrain. And it was a minor slip and fall. A person was treated for a strain and released. And the other one was an asthma attack.
As far as we know, no civilian injuries?
And no reported civilian injuries, correct.
Okay.
Good. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Jonathan, did you need to move on?
If you've got something, just quick.
Well, listen, I've been in touch with a couple of people that I know that were waiting to get back in and what have you. I'm hearing that it was going to be at noon and now it's been put off, but it may happen sooner than 2 p.m. Just for those people, what's the word on getting back in, and what's the concern? We're hearing that the Public Works needs to check out the roadways. Is the concern debris or what?
So there was a couple things, and primarily emergency crews moving around, getting in and out of there, because we transition crews this morning, and that transition happens at 8 o'clock at the stations, but then we need to get them out to their assigned working areas. We have a lot of heavy equipment moving around. Part of what we're doing with the homes that were lost is digging out the foundation, not digging out the foundation, but digging out the debris to make sure that there's no hot spots under there that are smoldering. And so moving that around. And then, yeah, making sure, having been up there, I know there was a bunch of debris that the wind drove across the roads, and of course the mud and gravel and whatnot. So they're just trying to make sure it's safe and clear for everybody to access. So that's the delay, but we're trying to get them in there as soon as we safely can.
Okay, thank you very much.
You bet.
Good stuff. We'll go to Ann Jeanette next.
Thank you. I'll pass my turn to Jenny Kane with RGJ.
Perfect.
Oh, hey guys. I'm going to ask for a colleague. Chief, you said that this fire was remarkably similar to the Collin Ranch fire. If you can kind of describe the similarities and yeah, if you can just start there. Similarities.
Sure. Like I said, I was on both fires, and the weather and the just dynamic conditions, I guess, is the best way to describe it. The way we had this strong wind, it was virtually constant, but it was shifting too. It was primarily out of the east yesterday, but it was moving around. So at one moment, the fire is driving toward you. Next moment, it's driving away from you up toward a hill or a home. And that dynamic situation and having to be so nimble and flexible in terms of, we protected this home, but we can't stay here. We need to move on because there's other homes that are threatened, other properties. Same thing, you have a lot of people affected that you're trying to evacuate. So all those factors that made last night or yesterday afternoon into last night such a challenge, they were mirrored 9 years ago. And that, like I said, it was just amazing to see it happen again. And that was kind of a watershed mark 9 years ago where we realized there is no fire season. Fire season is year round. Now we need to be ready for it year round.
Is there a reason this area is prone to fires? And then also, does this affect the homeowners in that area? Does this affect their insurance and just future development?
You know, I don't know that we are susceptible to fires as per se, because fire can start anywhere, you know, whether it's nature or human cause, that sort of thing. But having the potential, I would call it, for extreme weather conditions. Again, you look at those fires in Northern California, the Camp Fire, the Paradise Fire. Yeah, they had some mitigating factors, but they also had extreme weather conditions, and that's what drives that. And I mentioned, you know, Mother Nature controls the wind, not us. There's nothing we can do to mitigate that. But, you know, am I going to suggest that we can't or won't or shouldn't build in that area? It's the wildland urban interface, and there's a wildland urban interface code that, if it's followed, can mitigate the effects or the potential threat of fire in those areas. And so you're seeing that in new developments. And whether you look at defensible space or hardening construction, and by hardening, I mean, you know, making sure you don't have a shake roof, make sure you have comp or tile, something like that, and doing other things to mitigate the impacts, that certainly helps. It's not going to necessarily help prevent fire, but it's going to help protect your home, and it's going to help us help protect your home.
Good stuff. All right, Jason. If you're in here from RGJ. May not be. All right, we'll move on. Cynthia with Channel 2 or anyone else from KTVN. All right, we will continue moving on. We will have Amy from the RGJ, if you're here as well.
I am. Thank you. Jenny asked for me because we weren't sure how many people were going to get to ask questions. So she took care of my question for me, asking to reiterate about the similarities. Can you actually just to expand on that? I'm not sure if anyone's able to address like the development in that area. Has development continued in the area since we've had all those fires in that area, or were most of these houses built prior to the 2006 and 2011 fires?
You know, I believe most of these homes were built prior. There has been some limited development in the area, but again, I mentioned the WUI, the Wildland Urban Interface, and the WUI code that we follow. And so new development has had to comply with that code. And again, that's going to help. It's not going to prevent a fire, you know, that whether it's human caused, natural causes, or what have you. We can't stop all fires, but we can certainly help protect the resources and the people in this area.
Thank you.
Good stuff. All right. Lilo with the LA Times. Trying to unmute you here.
Oh, sorry. I was just listening in to get updates.
Yeah, not a problem.
Thank you so much.
All right, no worries. We'll go to Ismar.
Hi, everybody. My question is about the evacuations that occurred. What are the places that are still available to anybody who is still looking for a place, who's still being impacted? And just to reiterate, we don't have a time when anybody can go back home yet, right?
So I'll kind of take that in reverse. When the streets are open, which we expect to have shortly, within a couple hours anyway, today, residents are free to return. Again, consider the impacts that I mentioned in the PowerPoint about what you find when you get back to your home. The evacuation center was set up at the senior center. There was not a dramatic need for that, and they shut that down about 10 o'clock and referred people to the Red Cross to call the Red Cross. The Red Cross has mobilized, and they are up the incident command post, which is at Collin Elementary. So if somebody does need assistance, Red Cross will be the place to go. And like I said, they are mobilized and on scene in that area.
Great, thank you.
All right, we've got Kenzie's question. She says, thanks for all your hard work. We talk about defensible space all the time, and it usually doesn't mean much to people until situations like this. How much did defensible space save some of those homes yesterday?
It's a great question, because that's one of those things that's invaluable to us. You can't quantify it, but if it's there, and again, from personal experience on having been on these fires, when you have a huge event like this and we are trying to assess what can we save and what can we not, the ones that have the defensible space, we know that if we expend the resources, we can save that home. And if they don't, we're still going to try, assuming we have the resources, but that leads to our biggest challenge. And it makes a huge difference, and that's a resource that we have here at the Reno Fire Department, by the way. We have some literature online. We have some resources available, and you can always call and talk to one of our fire inspectors if you have questions about what to do on your home in particular, because it's a home by home evaluation in terms of what is enough and what that needs to look like. So
good stuff. Thanks, Chief. We've got Scott with the AP.
Hey, Chief, you mentioned that the last Collin fire was sort of a watershed moment in regard to fire seasons. Can you describe to us a little bit the difference that you see out there that allows us to have these fires at any time of the year compared to, say, a couple decades ago?
I think, part of it is just that we're growing as a city, as a region, we're expanding, and most fires, to tell you the truth, are human caused, and you put more people in an area, and by definition, there's going to be more opportunity, more chance that a fire can start. And you combine that with the extreme weather, and whatever your opinion is on global warming, I know the fuels are drier. So, for example, if you have wet green fuels, those are not going to burn, but fuels around here, the sagebrush, the manzanita, those type of things, they do dry out and stay dry. And when they're dry and you have low relative humidities like we did yesterday, that combination of weather factors is going to drive a fire once you get a start. And that's what happened yesterday.
All right, great. We've got two questions from KOH. The first is for the chief or city manager Thornley. Will additional law enforcement continue patrolling into the evening to ensure that the burned houses aren't looted? Because I would think that not everyone will be coming back tonight for evacuation, so there still may be some empty, dark homes there as well.
Thanks, John. Yes, the increase in presence of patrols will continue through this evening, and then we will evaluate tomorrow in terms of how open that area is and hopefully by then we'll have everybody back in their residence.
And Doug, anything to add there on that topic?
No, I think that the chief answered that one on point.
Fantastic. The second question from KOH is for the mayor. As far as the emergency declaration, what does that do specifically for us and homeowners? And then also, how quickly can homeowners expect some of that financial help?
Well, what it does, first and foremost, it helps us get more access to services, and obviously helps us pay for a lot of the mitigation and the personnel that come on to scene and things like that. And so it just allows us to sort of have this tool in place. It's hard to really say right now until all the fire assessment is done, so we can, come into the state and FEMA level and be able to try to get reimbursed for some of that cost. It also, allows us to make sort of different decisions when we sign an emergency declaration. Different policies in place sometimes whenever you do that. So if we have to, change on a moment's notice, we have the ability to do that because it kind of lifts other restrictions that might be in place. So it just kind of depends on the situation. It's interesting. I was just trying to think how many emergency declarations I've signed since I've been mayor. It's been quite a bit, and I'm going to have to go through and see each one, but certainly 2020 has just been something like none of us have ever seen before, right? You just, take a fire on top of a pandemic, and it just, everything that we've gone through 2020, I can't begin to tell this community enough how much I appreciate all their support last night. I mean, it was really tremendous to see everyone working together and our community, just saying, hey, how can I help? Can I put people up? Can I get trailers for animals? I mean, it was really tremendous. And also, I think when you sign the emergency declaration, people really understand the magnitude of the severity that we face. So there's a kind of a lot of different facets that signing one of those really does help.
Good stuff. Jenny Kane asked, as far as your feelings and emotions yesterday. So you had evacuated as well, correct? Because you live near in the area.
So my sister and my mother and myself, we were, kind of all frantic like everyone else was, but it was a little bit more challenging. I will tell you this, because I'm in quarantine. And so I wasn't able to, help to the magnitude that I'm normally allowed to do so, because I wanted to make sure I was keeping everyone safe. And so it was very, very stressful, but I mean, it pales in comparison to the people that, lost their belongings in their homes. I mean, my heart goes out to them, because it's incredibly tragic. But I also cannot stress enough how the sheer magnitude of what our police department tackled and our fire department had on their hands, and all of our regional partners. But I just have to tell you, it's one of those situations where it can just change on a dime, and you don't know what you're dealing with. And so here you have all these brave men and women coming to the rescue, and it really just, I think, makes you understand the magnitude of being appreciative and grateful for what they do.
That's excellent. Thank you. And then Chief, final question as far as timing for the cost of the damage. We've still got containment cause and all of that, but cost estimates at this point?
I imagine it'll be a couple weeks at least. Like I said, we're working in conjunction with the building department. And a lot of this, it has to do, there's private property damage, there's the natural resource damage, the mitigation of costs, of course. So a couple weeks or so at least before we have a final number on that.
Great. Chief Soto, City Manager Thornley, Mayor, anything that any of you would like to add before we wrap up?
John, just one more thing, because we've talked about our first responders and all of, the things that they bring to the table, which is, like I said, tremendous. But there's also a ton of people behind the scenes helping. You guys did tremendous from our comms department, Rebecca Venus, John Humbert, Matt Brown. You guys I know have been up all night long, rock stars. Even our public works, I don't know if people realize the magnitude of what happens when we bring in public works, what they bring to the table. And so, you know, you always hate to leave anyone out and express your gratitude, but I just have to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of the City of Reno employees last night, because I know all of you have been up all night long. And I can't tell you how grateful we all are. This is the community that we live in, and we rally when we need each other most. So kudos to all of you. And Doug Thornley, our city manager, he checked in with me probably, 15, 20 times. He was on the phone. He didn't sleep all night. And so I just hope our community understands that we're so lucky to have such a great team at the City of Reno and great regional partners. So Rebecca and all you guys from comms, thank you for everything.
All right, good stuff. We did have one super quick one as far as suppression costs, Chief, having mutual aid. Do we have any ballpark of what those costs are in personnel, equipment, all of that sort of stuff?
Not at this time. You can imagine our focus has really been on suppression and mitigation. We haven't tried to work in numbers yet here. Gotcha.
And then as far as given that this is mid-November when we've had our worst fire with Colin and then this fire, within hours of each other to the day, what does this say about fires happening any time of the year?
Like I mentioned, that the first Colin fire was really the watershed event where we realized there is no off season. Fire season is year round. And I would add, the Washoe Valley fire happened 2 months later. It happened in January, what you might think of as the dead of winter. And that was a major fire as well. So I cannot emphasize enough how much people need to be careful. The wind event, we had a red flag warning a couple weeks ago. That used to be a summer thing. When you have a red flag warning basically in November, that should tell you all you need to know right there. And so those cautions, those things we ask people to do to be careful, don't engage in hazardous activities. We had a fire earlier this year that started because of some welding outside. Can you imagine if somebody had taken on a project like that yesterday? I mentioned how often or how many fires are human caused. And if humans take care, be careful, we can reduce the number of starts, which reduce the number of fires.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone. As always, Media Line, if you have questions, we'll be staffing that anytime as usual. If there are any other big updates, we'll send out a release to let you know if there's going to be another news conference, either in person or virtual. Again, thank you guys so very much for taking these questions, but also asking these questions so we can get it out to everybody. This is going to be archived on YouTube as well. If you need the cloud recording, let me know and we can give that to you. And City Manager Thornley, anything to wrap us up and send us on home?
Thanks, John. I'd echo all the comments from the mayor and Chiefs Cochran and Soto in terms of our hearts go out to all those who are affected by this fire. I'd like to put sort of a point on, we are working to put together all of the resources for those who've been affected, and we will be pushing out that information on all of our social media platforms as it becomes available. What I'd like to highlight sort of at this point is that the American Red Cross has done a number of things for folks who've been affected by this fire and displaced by fire, and that's one of their core missions. And so I know that we've been front and center on that, but I'd direct everybody to their page, and as more resources come online, we'll make sure that the public is aware of them.
All right, good stuff. Thanks so much, everyone. We are wrapping up this meeting. Thanks.